We could pack our bags tomorrow, leave all of our sorrows, see where all this road goes, maybe San Diego, oh. Maybe San Diego, oh.
We are often fed this idea that a good life is made up of really big moments. Graduating college, getting the perfect job, and getting married, having kids. And while all of those are important milestones, I have realized that true happiness and true satisfaction in life comes from the small things that we do every single day. That is, our habits. And since one of my goals on this channel is to help you on your journey of personal growth and development, and because it makes for a wonderful title, today I'm going to talk about 8 habits that have completely changed my life. And I do not use the term changed my life lightly. So let's get right to it. The first habit that I want to talk about is breathing. And as basic as that might sound, a lot of us, most of us actually, tend not to breathe properly. I was first introduced to this concept about 10 years ago when I started practicing yoga, and the example that we were shown was that of a child breathing and an adult breathing. And if you look at the difference, you will see that a child's breathing is more diaphragmatic, and I'll explain what that means in just a minute. And an adult's breathing pattern is more from the upper thoracic region. I'm not a doctor, so I might be mixing up the terms a little bit. So if you look at a child breathing, you will see that when they inhale, their stomach comes out a little bit, and when they exhale, their stomach goes in. And that basically means that their diaphragm is being activated when they're breathing in, which basically ensures that there's an optimum flow of oxygen in their lungs and therefore their blood at all times. And if you look at an adult breathing, you will see that their chest mostly goes up and down, their stomach is not going in and out. And this is something that my fitness coach explained to me is something that's called like a panicked state of breathing, because you're not optimizing the lung capacity, you're not getting your optimum level of oxygen, which keeps your body in a constant state of stress and panic. And you don't really want to be in a constant state of stress and panic, which is why breathing properly or breathing diaphragmatically is extremely important. Again, I have been practicing this for several years now, which is why it's become sort of an automatic process. But when you're first starting out, it will take a little bit of practice to get into the groove of breathing properly, and that solves so many health issues that it's not even funny. The second habit I want to talk about is walking while I'm talking on the phone. And this is a recent development as a result of the pandemic and 2020. And I can't believe that I'm saying this. For the first time in my life in 2020, I felt that I needed to move. I have never been a very active person, always sedentary, even in school, college, throughout my life actually. And in 2020, when there was so much sitting and lying around, I finally felt the need to move, which is when I came across several people on YouTube doing this, several suggestions on the internet doing this. They all talked about one of the easiest ways to move more is to walk while you're talking on the phone. And although I'm not the kind of person who takes a lot of calls, etc., it still is very helpful, especially if you're talking to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while and you end up talking for an hour or so. And if you've been walking the entire time, that covers a major part of your step goal as well, if that's something that you have. The third thing is reducing the amount of time that I spend consuming the news. Now, I have studied journalism and I practiced as a journalist for about 3 years before switching to a completely digital content career sphere. And during that time, my interaction and my experience with the journalism industry kind of put me off news for a while. And I thought that was like a temporary thing, but it wasn't. The reason for this is that a lot of news that you see, especially on television media, is very sensationalized. They function with the same concept that YouTubers function with, or anybody on social media functions with, is that the more clickbaity, the more sensational the piece of news is, the more people are likely to watch it. Of course, that's a great business decision for news channels and newspapers and magazines, and we will not get into the ethical side of things. But if you look at it from the consumer point of view and from the mental health perspective of the consumer, sensationalized news is really, really bad for mental health. And there are several medical researchers that back this fact. I will link some of them below so that if you want to read more in depth about this, you can go through it. Increased news consumption is often linked with higher stress levels, higher anxiety, even depression and hypertension. So reducing my consumption of news basically did two things. One, it helped reduce a lot of the distractions from my day-to-day life, thus increasing my productivity. Plus, it kind of made me shift my perspective towards things that I could take action on rather than consuming passively and getting worried and stressed out about things I really couldn't do much about. The fourth habit is what I made my last video on, which is waking up early. Now, for the first quarter of my life, that is by the time that I reached 25, I did not have like a single cell in my body that wanted to wake up early. I was a night owl. I could go through the entire night if there was an exam or if I had an assignment to finish at work. I could study the whole night, I could work the whole night, but I just couldn't wake up in the morning. However, in the last 4 years, that has kind of shifted and I have now become a morning person, which I absolutely love. It gives me so much time to center my thoughts, to ground myself, to work on things that are important to me and overall just improve my lifestyle a lot. And it's one of the best things, I think one of the best habits that I have been able to cultivate in the past several years that has made a lasting change on almost every other habit that I have. My fifth habit is something that's kind of a mindset habit more than a physical habit, and it is keeping my first promise of the day. I read this quote somewhere and I can't remember where exactly, and that is, if you promise yourself that you're going to do something and you don't fulfill that promise, you're essentially telling yourself or signaling to your brain that you're not worthy of that promise being kept. And that kind of really stuck with me, and I've been doing this, practicing this for a while now, that it's become into a habit. My first promise of the day is usually not to hit the snooze button or wake up at the time that I set for myself the night before. And I've gotten pretty good at keeping this promise. When I started out, it was slightly more difficult, but now it's become a lot easier, as with anything that you practice over a period of time. And this slight mental shift of following through on the first promise that I make to myself kind of puts me in the zone where I believe throughout the day that, I can accomplish any task that I set my mind to. The sixth habit, and we're kind of switching to the more productivity zone with this, is using a digital to-do list and syncing it with my calendar. The app that I currently use, and I've switched between several apps over a period of time, is Todoist. I really enjoy their interface, the way that they allow you to set labels, reminders, etc. I absolutely love their interface, and it's so easy to keep track of. It syncs like with other productivity apps, with your phone and your desktop, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun to use as well. And because I'm able to set reminders right on the app, it automatically syncs to my Google Calendar and my Apple Calendar, which again makes it very, very easy to keep track of the things that I need to get done throughout the day. This is, I think, one of the biggest changes that have helped me improve my productivity and stay on top of things, because I am a super forgetful person. If I don't write something down, I will not get it done. So this has been a game changer. The seventh habit is also something that has to do with productivity, and that is switching off all my social media notifications. I just have WhatsApp on because that's for personal communication most of the time. But apart from that, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, any other app, even email is switched off on my phone. There are two reasons for this. One, because I work with a lot of social media clients, there's an overwhelming number of notifications and it can get really irritating really fast. And the second is, receiving notifications, whether it's from social media or any other app, is a huge distraction, because every time there's a notification, the phone is such a bloody handy thing that you can't keep it away even if you want to. The easiest way to not get distracted is to switch off notifications. And I'm a big advocate of everybody doing this. You don't need your Instagram notifications, you don't need to know when somebody has posted or if somebody commented on your post and respond to them right away. If you're using social media for business, you need to be social in a fairly certain amount, but that still does not mean that you have to be online all the time. That is one of the biggest recipes for distraction and disaster. And it has been a game changer for me personally to switch these notifications off and not have to worry about my phone pinging every second and then having the urge to respond to them as well. My eighth habit is again a mindset shift, and that is not wasting energy on arguments. I think arguments are a huge waste of time, and it's different from taking a stand, because when you're arguing, you're trying to make a point or convince someone that what you feel and what you believe is right, and what they feel and what they believe is not right. But here's the thing, all of us have very different experiences in life. We have very different journeys, and where someone's perspective comes from could be a very different place from where you are or you have been in your life. And for that reason alone, I think arguments are kind of a useless concept, because you can never convince somebody of your point of view just by trying to convince them. Arguing, in my opinion, makes you spend a lot of your personal energy, something that you could be using to do more constructive, more useful stuff, and you never really reach a conclusion. At least in my experience, I have never reached a conclusion with any argument. We all leave thinking that our point of view was better than the other. So a few years ago, I kind of just got fed up of the whole idea of arguing and stopped doing it altogether. There have been a few times where I have indulged in a conversation or a light banter, but I have almost always stopped it from turning into an argument, especially where I am personally involved, because it's just not worth the energy and the effort, and I would much rather be spending that time doing something more constructive. So that was it for the 8 habits that have changed my life. If you have any such habits, I would really love to know, because it helps me also grow as a person, become a better individual. And with that, I want to urge you guys to subscribe to my newsletter. It is something that I post every week on Mondays, and it's based on mindsets, on habits, productivity, personal growth. And we have a small, beautiful community that is growing by the day, and I would love for you to be a part of that. I also respond to emails, so if you get the newsletter, if you have anything to share, and if there's a perspective and you want to start a dialogue, I am happy to do that, because I love conversing with you guys. And yes, of course, you know what else to do. Subscribe, like, share, join me on Instagram, yada. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.